Great. So, very good evening to all of you. This is Shantiri Malya here, and I'm editor at ETCIO. So it's my great pleasure on behalf of Google Cloud, Persistent Systems, and ETCIO to extend a warm welcome to all of you here. So, it's a weekday evening, and Bangalore traffic has been relentless. I'm sure you've all traversed long distances, short distances. I'm not aware because I came from a fairly short distance. The proximity to my workplace and here was fairly smooth. So I can't say the same for everyone here because I'm not the representative sample for having borne the brunt of Bangalore traffic. So thank you all. It really matters to us that you've taken time out. And of course, let me kind of sort of step back and sort of talk about accelerate your cloud transformation journey, which is the overarching theme for today's session. So when we talk about cloud, we are kind of more of people, at least from the space that I operate in, we've had tons and tons of conversations with the CXO communities for years now. And when I started off my journey in this space, the cloud as a discussion was still a word. You know, people just spoke about everything was within hugely, data centers constructed at huge costs, which we today very easily talk about as legacy, computing. But those days, that was the ground reality of many organizations. And there were people who actually took the cloud as a misnomer. There was something that was going viral on the internet about a tax commissioner actually mistaking cloud computing for the real word. So that from there, we have come a long distance in terms of the Indian enterprise having traversed the cloud journey. So first, in the initial stages, in terms of the maturity model of the cloud computing space, and as far as India is concerned, first, I think people just try to see how they can phase out of the DC and how much they can actually look at keeping in their own data centers and how much they can move to the cloud. And then as they traversed forward, a lot of people actually moved a lot of things onto the cloud. And now we have a whole set of non-brick and mortar companies which have actually begun on the cloud itself. So today we live in interesting times where we straddle different worlds, the traditional brick and mortar and the new age companies, which are actually cutting the fine line. These are the cross. And then, of course, you have a whole bulk of companies, which are the crossover companies, which talk about cloud first. So today's session, I think, would be interesting for us. We have lined up a whole set of eminent, keynote speakers. We have got panelists here from different companies joining us to give us their views, insights into what has been their cloud journey and how and what are those small challenges or pain points that and best practices that they have to speak about. So without taking too much of stage space here, let me leave the door open to the thought leaders and the keynoters to come onto stage and sort of share their concept notes. Before anything else, it's my honor to be introducing our first keynote speaker. In fact, a couple of keynote speakers will be joining us today for the note on accelerating your cloud transformation journey. See, I'm also kind of averse to giving too much of data at my end because we synthesize a lot of data from a lot of research firms and so on and so forth. We keep getting reports every day. So I don't want to throw contradicting numbers. I leave it to our keynote to come and talk about the concept and even share data and factual notes for you to kind of chew off. Please feel free to kind of even sort of at the end of the session, at the end of today's session, overall session, talk to them if you have any doubts to ask. So our speakers to join on stage first for Transformation Cloud. This is a series that we've been running across different cities. So this is called the Transformation Cloud series. So the keynote is also going to be around that. It's my pleasure to introduce Debashish Bhattacharya, Customer Engineering Manager, South, Google Cloud. Welcome, Debashish. It's our pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today. And he's going to be joined by Siddharth Talian, who's the Head of Sales Digital Native at Persistent Systems. Siddharth, welcome. So the stage is all yours, Debashish. I'll leave you to take center stage along with Siddharth and walk us through. Thank you. Need I say a round of applause, please?
Hi everyone, I hope you can hear me. So I am Debashish Bhattacharya. I lead the DNB business, the digital native business for Google Cloud. So the digital native business is divided into multiple parts, like we have the large digital natives and the early startups. So for the large digital natives, I head the team for South Bangalore, while we blame Bangalore for traffic and all of that, but the most talented people are here. So I think we have to remember that. And even when it is about the early startups, you will see there are a large number of startups in Bangalore and all over India. So I take care of the early startups for India, and there are a large number of that. So anything on digital native, I think we are doing a lot of work, and that's the team, and that's the part of Google that I represent. I'm around 1 year with Google, and before that, I have spent 6 years with AWS, and before that, around 12 plus years with Hewlett Packard, starting with engineering team and then moving into the field place. So today's topic that we are talking about is the transformation story, and in the first few slides, I will quickly take you through what do we mean by transformation, how does Google Cloud come into picture, and what are the areas, what are the different things that we are doing. I'll start with that. Then I will hand it over to Siddharth, and he will take you through the rest of the presentation of this keynote and tell what are the various different type of works that we have done together. So to start with, see, we all talk about innovation, and if you talk about innovation, I think one point you'll surely agree that Google is one of the pioneers of innovation. And just let me give you an example, which we keep saying always, that more than 7 products of Google actually have 1 billion plus users. And if you see the technology that is powering all these kind of most used application run on the type of infrastructure that is extended today as the Google Cloud Platform. Many of you might be using it, and I think we can do a deep dive into any of these things anytime later or today, probably after the presentation. So if you look at a few of the cloud innovations, I think one of the cloud innovations, a few things I'll talk about. Say, for example, the whole Kubernetes thing, how Google kind of invented it, open sourced it, runs a GKE, a very well managed platform, and which is competing and is better from a developer productivity, from various other aspects when you compare with any other cloud. It's an innovation, and that innovation has been taken to scale. If you look at, say, for example, what we are doing with, say, TensorFlow and TPUs, it's a very unique proposition that you will see compared to any other cloud providers, and you will see total innovation coming into place. So what I definitely want to stress out is that things like, say, a cloud spanner. Imagine a SQL database which can be horizontally scaled and which has read consistency. So to solve really innovative, difficult problem, Google is a partner for you and provides a plethora of services that customers like you today leverage. Now, the other part that we talk about is that Google is a company, like I said, 7 plus products that are there, which has more than 1 billion users. It's a B2C type of a company, B2C type of a kind of offerings that you normally see. Now you talk about the enterprise side. You talk about customers like, say, HDFC, say an HSBC. If you look at the retail space, you have plenty of customers. If you look at say the startups, say a fintech like a JustPay, all of them use Google Cloud for various enterprise type workloads. So what I'm trying to say is that Google is one company where you'll say they do tremendously well when it comes to the B2C or a customer centric one point of view, and then also from the enterprise workload type point of view. And again, industry specific, say for example, the UPI payment gateway, if you have just probably look up on Google, that UPI switch, there's a solution that you will see it's a very innovative solution. Today, banks are struggling to take care of. We buy anything and pay for 5 rupees, 10 rupees, anything. And imagine the number of transactions that are generating. Banks are struggling with it, and there is a nice offering, and multiple banks are today going with that is the UPI switch. And basically, it takes the load of the core banking solution. So when you are talking about industry solutions, it's not about the Lego blocks like some of the other cloud providers provide. It also provides you solutions which are directly deployable and consumed by the customer. Now again, this is the transformation journey that I think we and our partner helps you to solve. See, when the cloud started or when virtualization started, people moved and virtualized their environment and moved into cloud. Then the next step came in, because that was not enough, because you were probably running out of your data centers. Data centers has a lot of relevance today, but you had a requirement to scale, auto scaling, all of that was required, you moved there. Then the next step comes in, that you moved probably all in, some customers move all in there into cloud, and some run hybrid and various other ways. But if you see, when it comes to transformation today, you are not just doing a lift and shift and saying that I am on cloud. Then you are actually not taking benefit of cloud. If you are not leveraging, say for example, a managed Kubernetes environment, you are not taking advantage, say, of a very open source compliant, say a open fast type of a system that, say, Google Cloud provides. So that's what transformation would mean, and the transformation today is there in the entire pipeline of the software journey. So those things Siddharth will also talk about, and we can talk about individual case studies that Google and our partner has done together and take it forward. So I think I'll give you a few examples. Say for example, we have in today's world, the large set of customers. A large set of customers use Google Cloud for various reasons. So we have one of the largest, say I'll just drop a few references. So for example, today if you know applications like Glance, if you are looking at customers like Flipkart, if you are talking of a Dunzo, many of these names and many of them either run all in on Google Cloud, or they run one of the workloads on Google Cloud. So here we talk about data cloud. So data and analytics are few of the services which are probably most commonly used by customers today. And see, everybody is sitting on a lot of data because of the journey that we talked about. You generated a lot of data, keeping it in a cloud storage, and the objective would be to analyze and go forward. So the data cloud with various services that we have, like data proc, like BQ and other things, people today are connecting all this data. Say for example, a clickstream data is merged with the third-party data with some old historic data and giving some more user insights. Solutions like CDPs are coming in, customer data platform, wherein from 3 of your products, you create a common user profile and then do a very precise targeted application approach. So there is a solution, if you look at it, called CDP, which is built on top of the Google Cloud Data Platform. So, and if you look at the open infrastructure, I think Google has this philosophy of being open for a long time. It is not very recent. They have done many of these innovations that are there today are made open source. And you'll see Google Cloud is the only cloud which talks about, say, multi-cloud, hybrid, and this type of terminologies normally you will not see other places. Things like when you're talking of any connectivity between cloud provider A versus this one, how an Anthos can solve your problem is something that Google has products built in. Even the term multi-cloud came into place. The other piece that I would like to talk about, the spectrum of this offering. See, one thing that I think works with customer when they are transforming is that if you look at the whole Google offering, we call it the one Google offering, and that's where, if you see the collaboration and other things happens. See, the Google platform offers something from the handled devices, operating system, Android. Then it comes, say, for example, things like the ad analytics and all of that. Then if you look at the Google Workspaces type of a solution, if you then look at the different, say, for example, in the mobile space itself, you'll find most of the customers in the startup world are mobile first, or in many cases mobile only, and they invariably use Firebase, Flutter, and other things. It's definitely, Flutter has gone a long way from when it started, and there is a big trend of large startups doing it. So if you look at this one, and then if you move from left to right, then the cloud environment comes in. The infrastructure as a service offerings, the data cloud offerings, the other integration and collaboration software that are there. If you look Google as a whole portfolio of offerings, you will see that it is not just providing a data cloud or AI/ML, which it is very famous for, but also the whole one Google aspect of it. When you look at a life cycle of a software or a life cycle of an end-to-end connectivity from the mobile handled devices till inside, maybe till your BQ where you are doing the analysis, Google has all the products in its place. So I think I'll just go ahead and mention about trusted cloud. See, if you see zero trust security, and if you see, for example, the latest DDoS attack that happened, and if you probably would have, the largest DDoS attack was stopped by Google infrastructure some days back, and you would have read in the news. So this is an infrastructure that has been trusted over for many years. Like I said, multiple billions of users use it, and this is the same infrastructure that is extended to our customers. And again, Google is one of the cloud providers who talks about sustainability from long time. If you look at our console also, you can go ahead and in many regions find out an instance and the sustainability index of it and the details of it. You will know how much you are contributing to the environment. So in summary, I would just say that when you are transforming, Google has a horizon of product. If you have to look at one Google as an approach, and of course, among all of that, probably one of the best price performance options that you get in the market today. So with that, I hand over to Siddharth to take it with the other part of the presentation. And there are a lot of customer stories he will share. You have any questions particularly about them, whatever is shareable, we would be happy to share. Thank you.
I hope the mic is working. Is it? Okay, it's working now? Yeah, but the ones at the back might not. It's better? Okay, good. Okay. It took me 2 hours to get here from Whitefield, so I'm a little tired. So please don't mind. So I have a lot of slides, and I just want to make sure that I keep this relevant to the audience here. If I can have a quick show of hands for just 2 questions that I have. How many of us are actually working in the data and AI side of things here? Just a show of hands. Thank you. How many of you are responsible for security of your application? Wonderful. I think it's the right content I got there then, I think. Okay. So the way this presentation is drafted is that we start with some questions. And these questions are basically things that we have come across when we are talking to customers, understanding what are the pain points, what are they trying to solve for. But really at the basic level, there are certain questions that people have, right? And we are trying to answer those questions through these slides. Now, before I get into that, just wanted to do a small introduction as well. I lead the digital natives patch at Persistent in India. And I've been in, I wouldn't say cloud, I would say infra for a while. I spent more than 5 years at DirectEye, where I was in the infrastructure cloud era. I was head of global sales back then. Okay. First question around data, right? So you consider so many verticals out there, right? It could be logistics, e-commerce, fintech. They're collecting a lot of data. And a lot of this data just sitting there. We are not really able to understand how we can leverage the power of data, how we can take decisions. And if you want to do something, how do you go about achieving that in the most efficient manner possible? Can you see the slides here? Am I? Okay. So in some studies that we have seen, only around 24, 25% of companies are actually able to realize the potential of their data. And it's not because they don't know what to do with it. It's more to do with how rather than what. Walk you through an example here. And I think there's one other thing around data. I think if most of you would agree, is that a lot of data is collected but in silos. And then it's a challenge to bring it together, to run some analysis, derive some insights, and basically make use of that data. Now, SmartShift by Mahindra, I think they merged with Porter some time back, but back then, they wanted to solve a few problems. So first of them was the logistics use case. Is anybody here from logistics industry? Oh, perfect, okay. Over and above that, they wanted to ensure that they can scale rapidly and be able to derive insights from all the data that is being collected. So when you see a typical logistics use case, it has certain variables / parameters. The warehouse locations, the kind of fleet that you have, the capacity that your fleet can carry on any given day, what kind of load is available to be carried from point A to point B, what is the cost of one activity from point A to point B, right? So what we did was we looked into various Google Maps APIs that are available. We offered them to the customer, and through all of these parameters, the platform could give the most efficient route to transfer a workload from point A to point B. Right, so that was the basic solution that was taken care of. To scale, there were various options, the traditional databases that you can use. But we went and we recommended Data Store, which is primarily a NoSQL database that scales rapidly. Now, there are a lot of, it's always the details are the ones that are important, but I'm not going to get into that right now. We can have an offline conversation around that. But once the data was captured in Data Store, there was some data in the cloud bucket as well. They wanted to make sense out of it. So one of the solutions that we offered was BigQuery, which is basically your serverless data warehouse that scales rapidly and all of that. And what it did was it allowed them to achieve their key performance indicator, which is mentioned here, 3 minutes to book at any given day during the year. And this is the one thing that they spoke about a lot. This was their PR, basically, once this happened. Okay, so this is one example that we saw, but what else is out there as far as data is concerned? Why Google Cloud? Now, I would like to focus on box number 3. It talks about something called Vertex AI. How many of us are aware of Vertex AI and what it does? Okay, logistics, so I understand. Okay, all right, okay. So Vertex AI, in very layman term, I would say, is a unified UI where you can train and compare your machine learning models, right? Now, what does it mean? Now, Google Cloud is, of course, far ahead of its competitors when it comes to pre-trained models around vision, video, translate, and a host of other APIs. What it also has is something known as AutoML. So AutoML is basically a solution that helps you to build custom models without being an expert on ML. So very little knowledge on ML is required to build custom models. So what Vertex AI does is it allows you to manage all of these models in a single repository. Now, this is not enough, really. The data is actually sitting outside, right? So it has native integrations with the likes of BigQuery, Dataproc, Spark, and all of these big data services that we have. So let's take a use case. You have your data warehouse on BigQuery, and how is it useful, the whole integration, right? So BigQuery allows you to write machine learning algorithms using your SQL language, SQL queries. You can train models on BQML, and then through this seamless integration, you can move them over to Vertex AI, right? And continue to train them there. So this is just an example how a solution which is natively integrated with the right services allows you to cut down the time that you would need to build these ML models, but also be very efficient in terms of administration. Okay, next question. Are we the best as far as infra is concerned? There is a lot of talk around cloud, but let's be honest that most of the workload is still sitting on-prem, right? In fact, it says 90% is still on-prem. And why so? I think most people would agree that, yes, cloud is the future. But what should be the strategy to move to cloud? Should it be lift and shift? Should it be in phases? Should it be hybrid? Right? And these questions need to be answered. It's not always about cost, right? It's also about how to do it. And that is where Persistent comes in, to basically help you understand what is the right thing to do. Okay, let's take another example. How many of you know what Purple is? Okay, sorry, you? Okay. Purple is basically an e-commerce site for cosmetics, basically. And I think last I checked, they had more than 10 million downloads on the Play Store. And they have around 30,000 products. So it's a full-scale e-commerce site. Now, they had a couple of challenges. And the two that they talked about the most was how do we ensure that we are able to collect all the data that's coming in, all the streaming data coming in into a single warehouse, and how do I build a really good recommendations engine? Because e-commerce is all about recommending products based on the user behavior, based on where the user is from. I mean, if you're from an urban city, you will show different products, for example. So we took all of that into consideration. And the first thing that we did was move them to a serverless architecture. Now the question is why? And a simpler answer is we wanted to reduce their administrative effort of managing each of those virtual machines and services that they were using, free resources to focus on the product. Once that happened, again, BigQuery came into play because it is the best out there for warehousing. So we connected all the sources of data to BigQuery, and we helped them create a very solid recommendation engine that allows you to basically show you the right product, right? I always give this example, if you're buying a shampoo, you should probably upsell a conditioner, not a lipstick. So that is what they've been trying to achieve. And it's an iterative process, as we all know. And they will, of course, get better with time. Okay, what else is out there? We'll just focus on box number 2 here. Talks about Tau VMs. Are we aware of Tau VMs, anyone? Okay. Tau VM is basically the new offering. It's basically a virtual machine offering, which is based on ARM-based processors. What it does is it actually gives you 40% price to cost benefit. So sorry, price performance benefit. What it really means is if you were spending $1 today on any virtual machine to achieve a certain performance, now you can do that in 40 cents. It's not available in India right now. It will be available very soon, but the closest DC that's available is Singapore. So if compliance is not an issue, you should probably check it out. Okay. Now this is my favorite part, when we talked about when COVID happened, really, right? We started talking about what is it that collaboration really means, right? I mean, earlier when we would, sorry, this has to go back. Yeah, so earlier when we used to go to office, and office was the normal, and we would just walk up and talk to people, right? And we're not being able to do that anymore. Of course, we're now working hybrid. We go to office some days and some days we don't. But it's very important for us to stay at the same productive level that we were. Now, there are many solutions out there. I'm not going to say that any one solution can do everything. But I think the tenets of collaboration rely on a few things. One is, of course, the ease of communication. Now, it's not just about opening a chat window and talking to someone. It's more to do with how much can you do through a unified one-screen experience, right? Can you send emails? Can you chat? Can you set up video calls on the fly? Can you see availability? Can you do all of that without having to switch between various tabs? And that is, I think, where the thought of Google Workspace was, that we wanted to make sure that no matter where the person is, traveling, I'm a sales guy, I travel a lot. So for me, mobile experience is very important. If the two are different, then I get frustrated. But Google Workspace has been a solution that has worked for me and many others in terms of a very good mobile and web experience. An example for that is Shadi.com. The reason we bring that up is because they hired a lot of young people, right? And young people have been used to Gmail a lot. And they wanted to get a solution that not just helps with collaboration, but minimal training time. And what better than Gmail? And what better than Google Workspace? So this is a use case of like 1,200 people, but recently I worked with companies with more than 10,000, 20,000 users. No problem whatsoever, nil training time. And also, the most important piece here is migration, which I agree, right? If you're on a certain solution, everything needs to move, and that is the value that Persistent can bring, right? So be it any solution that you're on, we are happy to help migrate. Okay, this is a slide around, and the box in the center is the one which is interesting. We have around 7 billion people in the world today, and it's around 3 billion users right now on Google Workspace or Gmail, the free version as well. Okay, security. I saw some hands earlier, so I'm interested in this topic. My question is very simple, if I can have a show of hands. Is security the most important piece in the scheme of things right now for you guys? I mean, is it something that you talk about a lot in your boardroom meetings? Can I have a show of hands, please, if security is the most important thing? Okay, all right. And it is, actually. And there are many tenets of security, right? How do you ensure that it is safe? But what do you do if there is an attack, right? Is there a plan? So I'm going to talk about a few of those things. And before I get there, I think because security, I mean, the topic has been talked about a lot. I'm going to give you an example first. So National Stock Exchange, of course, these guys are serious about security, right? They had a use case. So what they told us was that they have some people who are internal, but they have certain third parties as well who wanted to access their trades data, the daily data that's coming in. Now this data set in itself was petabytes, I assume, right? And they wanted something which is secure to start with and of course able to scale. And honestly telling you, they looked at everything out there, including on-prem, hybrid, cloud only. And out of considering everything, they decided to go with Google Cloud. There's a very solid use case. I can share it with all of you later. But I'll tell you why they did that. One of the points was, and they wanted to ask was, what if something wrong is happening? How will the platform react to it? Now, for example, simple things, right? Let's say a user deactivates two-factor authentication, makes the access vulnerable. What if I have something in my data warehouse and everything is extracted onto a cloud bucket for no reason? Or things like there is a sensitive role and that role is assigned to multiple people, which normally doesn't happen. Is there a way that I can be informed? I can probably take some action. So Google Cloud has a centralized security solution, and there is a module for event threat detection, which does exactly that. Also, they wanted to understand how security works by default, right? So Google Cloud is different from every other platform in that aspect. And I'll just give you one example. Your data is always encrypted by default, always. You don't have to flip a switch every time, right? So what happens is in some of the other platforms, someone is creating a database and the switch is not flipped. And there, the data is vulnerable again. On Google, it never happens. Okay, while we are talking about security, I wanted to touch base on something that Persistent has built. Now this is focused on ransomware and nothing else. And this is focused on recovering. Before I get there, I wanted to show you some stats here, right? I mean, we all talk about how ransomware is basically impacting most of the large companies out there, especially the automotive industry, where all they do is they ensure that a few of their plants are stalled for a couple of weeks, and they're willing to pay whatever it takes to get the operations back on. There are many numbers out there to talk about how much are they paying, but 50 million is somewhere where we have seen is some of these automotives are paying right now for any small or mid-size attack. But when it comes to new age companies, right, an e-commerce company, logistics company, or any company that has direct to user interface, if the word goes out, right, that some of the data is compromised, it impacts 100% to your brand reputation. Also, I mean, a lot of companies take funding, and these kind of things do not look good when investors are like, oh, your systems have been compromised, right? We were not ready for it. So what we have done is we have created a solution. Of course, it helps you to do 1, 2, and 3, which I think a lot of us are doing today. We're trying to protect. Solutions like Palo Alto are very common these days. We're trying to detect and remediate. How many of us have a plan to recover if the attack is successful? And I'm not talking about DR, because if a ransomware attacks, your DR will be compromised. Right, most of us don't. So this is a solution that helps you to recover, and how is, I think, the first question that you might have. This is a very simplistic view of things of how PyCR works. I'll just move here. It basically works on backups only. So it does not work on your production environment because it might slow it down. It takes a backup. It does the entire process of analysis, detection, remediation for you, right, after your primary systems have done so. Once a clean backup is created, it then takes it to put in a cyber resilient vault. This is a solution that has an air gap. Any attack that happens probably can reach the backup as well, but will never reach the vault. And that is where you recover from. So let's say the attack is successful. All that you do is to flip a switch. This data then moves to your test environment. Your developers can test it and push it to production within hours. You don't have to go announce that I have been attacked, right? You just recover from it and continue as business as is. This solution right now works only on GCP. We are like strategic partners. In some cases, it can work on-prem as well. Okay, some of the logos that we have worked with, I'm probably assuming some of you might be here. Some stats around persistent. A lot of people don't know about persistent, right? So I thought this slide is helpful. One of the key indicators of our growth is 21,000 employees right now, and all of these employees are engineers. They're cloud engineers, Java, .NET. We are an engineering company. We focus on services. We achieve great things in India, US, and across the globe, and we continue to do so. The second important point is we are going to be a $1 billion revenue company this financial year. So this goes to show the kind of faith and trust a lot of companies have had in us over the years. This slide is just about ensuring that we're giving you proof that we have all the skill set that's needed to help you. We have enough engineers on Google Cloud who can help you in any use case out there. And I think that's that. Thank you. We'll be here if you have any questions. Let us know. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Debashish and Siddharth. That was a great context setting, and I think a lot of learning for most of us, including me, yours truly as well. Thanks much. I think this sort of leads us, organically to the rest of the session. As always, we try and keep this whole thing as interactive as possible. So we have something that's going to keep you on your toes right now. So we have a quiz coming up, and so keep yourselves ready. We'll be having a set of questions that we will run one after the other. And for those of you who get the maximum answers or whatever, we're going to announce about 3 winners. And get set. Let's just quickly sort of give our dexterity a little run. Huh? So the questions are coming up. I think, are we ready with it? Yeah. So more so, as we move on to what comes in after the quiz, we will have a panel discussion. And of course, we have an exciting, sort of earn your reward feedback, sort of a mechanism which we have for you at the end of it, through which you can also walk away with some prizes. So stay put here, participate in the sessions, get more insights. So here's the quiz coming up. So join in at www.kahoot.it, or you can also use the Kahoot app. And you have a game pin there, and you have a code, a QR code that you can scan. So you have multiple options to join in. I hope the screen is visible. You're all able to get the details. Should these questions be visible to me as well?
Hi, I hope everyone's already joined in. We're waiting another half a minute. Please go ahead, scan the code, or enter the URL and enter the pin on it. Yep.
I think, yeah. We're having people join in. Yeah, we can
Don't
see
worry,
them.
even if you haven't joined yet, you can join in the middle too. And there are only 2 rules here. Give the right answer and give it quickly. So, yeah.
Okay, so here's our cloud transformation quiz coming up. So the first question, how many requests can be handled by Google Cloud Spanner? So in 1 second, basically, yeah. So how many requests can be handled by Google Cloud Spanner? Serverless SQL DB in 1 second. Oh my God, there are about 4 choices here. It's 100,000, 1 million, 100 million, 1 billion. Whoa. Okay. Do we have, who's got the scoreboard here? We have Subhash, who's leading. Okay. Great. Congratulations to Subhash. We move on to the next question. How much data can be processed by Google BigQuery? Serverless data warehouse in 1 second. Go for it. 100 TB, 10 TB, 1 TB, 100 GB. Trick. We're getting 26 answers, 27, 28. Okay, that's a very sporting crowd here. 29 answers. 100 TB. This was a fairly no-brainer. Yeah. Okay. Great, congratulations. So who, did we get like who's leading here? Okay, so we have Shobit, who's led on to this question. So congratulations, Shobit. Can we move on to the next question quickly? Quiz, third question. Which additional platforms are available to you to build and deploy, manage apps on VMs and GKE by Google Anthos? We have 28, 29. Okay, again. Oh, so all of this is right. On-prem, edge, leading cloud platforms, all of the above. Great. And let's see. Shobit once again. Scores way above the others. Okay, congratulations. Fourth question. How much time does Google Turbo Replication take to replicate data across regions? Specific questions require specific answers. 26 or 27, okay. 28, someone, okay. No true answers here. We have 29 clear answers. 30, okay, somebody has taken the lead. 15 minutes is the time for Google Turbo Replication to replicate data across regions. Great. So who gets to lead? Sarvesh, 3750. Congratulations. The next fifth question coming up. What is the unique feature of PICR. I think sure. The Siddharth spoke quite a bit about this. That makes it a must-have solution for cyber resiliency. I think he spent quite a lot of time on this. Guys, this is a no-brainer. I wish I could participate. So, ransomware detection, alert and remediate, ransomware recovery, automated backups. He spoke about this. We can't go wrong here. Okay, Shobit leads again. Which services does Persistent bring to you? Data engineering, infra optimization, product engineering, all of the above. 29 answers. Someone has played truant. All of the above. Great. And the score. Shobit again. And we have Saha Green Act. Okay. The last question coming up. Which of the following Google services is the smartest data visualization tool on cloud today? BigQuery, Looker, Spanner, Anthos. Super. I think we spent some time on this as well. Okay, so it's Looker. That's the right answer. Can we look at the score? So Shivanshu gets, Shobit gets, okay? And Sarvesh. So we have Shobit, Sarvesh and Shivanshu. So can we just wait here? May I invite, so we have prizes for you here. You get to be rewarded for your efforts because these were very specific questions pertaining to today's sessions as well. So you did have to be attentive, you did have to absorb, or you did have to be a user at some level, whichever holds good for you. So may I invite Debashish to quickly, if Debashish is here. Yeah, Debashish, may I invite you to give away a prize to Shobit, please? Debashish on stage, back again. A round of applause to all the three winners. And Shobit, may I invite you on stage, please? Congratulations. That was an interesting quiz. Thank you so much for participating. So we... a round of applause, please. Very well done. So can we have Sarvesh on stage? Thank you so much. And for the last, Shivanshu, may I invite Shivanshu on stage, please? Shivanshu, you were the early bird in any case. You showed up early, so you're rewarded for your efforts. Congratulations to Shobit, Sarvesh and Shivanshu. Thank you, Debashish. Thank you so much. So we move on after that quiz. I think I was quite sort of taken in because this really required some bit of your mind share in terms of how well you got your answers right. So great, thank you so much and congratulations to the winners. So at this point of time, I think it's apt for us to move on very quickly to kind of synthesize Debashish and Siddharth's sessions into a very crisp panel discussion here. So the panel discussion will be a continuation of the first two keynotes. So the topic is going to be about innovating faster with a unified and intelligent data platform, basically about how we are accelerating digital transformation with cloud. And it kind of layers into exactly what Debashish and Siddharth spoke about. So what are we really looking at and how are we securing the cloud transformation and how is data playing the central focus in this whole process? So at this point, let me kind of very quickly call on stage our panel panelists for this session. So I'd also request for a hand mic for those who are not labeled and a hand mic for me as well, please. Thank you so much. May I call on stage first Ipshita Aruni, who's the Associate VP Analytics and Data at Persistent Systems. Welcome, Ipshita. A round of applause for Ipshita, please. Thank you so much. I'm going to call on stage next Vishal Chopra, who's the co-founder, CEO at WeRise. Welcome. Next coming on stage is Kritika Muthukrishnan, Chief Data Science Officer, Scriptbox. Welcome, Kritika. Next on stage, Vaibhav Kandelwal, co-founder and CTO, Shadowfax. The applause can be a little louder, please. Or is evening a very tiring routine for us? I know, I agree, it's a Wednesday afternoon and and we are running short of water. We are not running short of water, actually. There's a lot of water, so please gear yourself up. We need the claps. Then coming up next is Pranav Chetriyo, who's the Engineering Manager, Vertical Lead, Buyers Experience, Front Row. Pranav, welcome. And we have Subhash Chaudhary, CTO at Dukaan. I think this is our panel here. So welcome to all of you. Thank you so much, Ipshita. Thank you so much, Vishal, Kritika, and Vaibhav, Pranav, and Subhash. Thank you so much. Ideally, as I was just saying, we're kind of trying to synthesize what we've heard in the keynotes and lead it into a discussion here. So I would not be going in any particular order because I think going in sequence is going to kind of make it too monotonous. So I'm going to kind of sort of throw in questions to the panel in no particular order, but please feel free to interject. And if there's anything else you need to counter or sort of add in there, please feel free. So let me kind of first throw my first question to Vishal here. So Vishal, you're co-founder at WeRise, and you typically have a sort of a cloud native journey, right? Typically at some level,
Cloud only.
Yeah, cloud only journey. So what's been this journey? What's the kind of the cloud landscape that you're sort of operating on? You could give an overview around that and speak a little specifically about certain journeys in the process of your cloud transformation.
Yeah, one of the things that I realized is I should have sent my CTO. I'm the CEO of the company. Right.
Sure, but I'm very sure you'd be able to throw some light.
Yeah,
Go for it.
But idea is like, we are, so essentially what we are building is, we are building India's largest fintech platform focused on the small city Indians that are underserved.
Sure.
And we have obviously multiple parts of our business that are technology driven. So we have a risk management system, a machine learning based risk management system where we use billions of data points to analyze the risk of the customers. We have a very large distribution platform where we use freelancers in small cities to reach these customers because they need assistance and guidance. So from day one, we are a 3-year-old company. From day one, we have been, everything is on the cloud, right? So we never, well, I have worked in companies, I've worked in Amazon and all, though not in technology roles. I was an engineer way back almost a decade ago. But from day one, like everything is on cloud, right? So we're a cloud native company. So all our machine learning systems, everything, from day one, it has been on the cloud. So I think that's what I can add.
Sure. So great, Vishal. So let me kind of just hop over to Pranav here. Pranav, Front Row is an interesting startup here. And yeah, so been looking up each of you and just seeing that, it's fairly sort of very upwardly mobile. And I think it addresses a particular age group as well.
There have been users from ranging from 10 years or even younger to people who are actually 80 years old.
That's
right?
interesting.
Yeah,
okay,
so
it's age agnostic.
Yep. And there was this interesting story that I usually tell people. So, okay, I'll tell you something about Front Row first. So we are an edtech platform which actually lets people pursue their hobbies, right? Be it singing, and that is the belief that we started with, right? Everybody has a hobby, right? Some people love singing, some people enjoy dancing, some people may rap, right? And we want people to enable those, the learning of those hobbies, right? So initially we started as a platform which only offered celebrity courses, but now we have also ventured into live courses where people can actually take a subscription based model and then, you know, continue their journey in the hobby that they're trying to pursue. So like I said, the story that I was about to tell you. So a 75-year-old person who after his retirement and everything, he decided that he would just, you know, like try to learn guitar, right? He opted for a live course, and I'm not sure what was the reason exactly, but his grandchild, right? He actually made a makeshift guitar for him to learn, right? And that just tells you how much people are invested into their hobbies, right? And we just want to give them a platform so that they can, you know, grow on it. About myself, I started as an engineer at Walmart. Again, the biggest company in the world, and they are one of the companies which leverage data at a very high level. After that, I worked at a startup called Glowroad, which is now acquired by Amazon. And yeah, I started at Front Row as a founding engineer. So again, we are a company only 2.5 years old, and our entire infrastructure, it's been cloud native since the start, right? We started using AWS. Obviously, we faced many challenges because as a startup, as the business grows, there are multiple things that you need to get into the product, right? For example, we started with MySQL database. There were times when we required Elasticsearch, right? And AWS gives that possibility to, you know, integrate into their system, and you can scale it up. You can spin up new instances at a whim, right? You can spin them down when you want to, and it's cost effective, it's flexible, right? And considering everything, I don't think there's any better choice, and it's not about reinventing the wheel. It's about getting the wheel and get it rolling. So that is the philosophy that we believe in, and that is how we started with and are continuing on.
Sure. So you spoke about challenges along the way in the cloud journey. So is there a thought around how you worked around it at some point? I mean, how did you really look at every touch point from a cloud delivery standpoint?
So again, like there are many things that it gives you out of the box, and obviously most of the services that we use, they have really good POCs that we have, right? And whenever we have any doubts, whenever we have any problems, we can obviously reach out to them. And there is a there's tons of material out there on the internet, right? Tons of documentation which you can just read and learn yourself, right? So it's not like you need a specific type of training or specific type of learning scheme that you need to follow, right? You can just, you know, take it and can start working on it. So yeah.
Sure. Great. And I think some interesting insights from you here, Pranav. So maybe just let me hop on to Kritika here. Kritika, welcome to the panel. So my question again to here is also about, you know, what's your idea of cloud first? I mean, is it just about building an integrated ecosystem? And do you believe that it ultimately leads to the entire part of, I mean, I think Debashish also kind of broached, you know, is it about an integrated ecosystem here? What are the each of the touch points that actually add on to the entire delivery, sort of mechanisms for you. So if you could just give some note on that.
So I come from a company called Scriptbox, and Scriptbox is a digital wealth manager. The idea behind Scriptbox is very simple. You know, Uber asked the question, why can't I get, if I need a vehicle, why can't I get a car, a reasonably good car in a short time frame at a reasonable price? Similarly, Scriptbox is just making investing your money really easy. Right? So our users don't really need to worry about how they secure their financial future. They really going out and enjoying their lives. So that's what Scriptbox is really about. Now, we've been a cloud-first, cloud-native organization right from the start. And there have been a couple of things in which it's really, really helped us. So the first has actually been about scalability. So in 2019, we were managing about 1,000 crores of assets. And today, after 3 years, we are managing more than 12,000 crores of assets. Now, to manage that kind of growth, to make sure customer experience is the same, you have to make sure that your delivery services can scale, and that's really happened to us because of cloud. The other thing is we are a highly data-driven organization. So every recommendation, every advice that goes to our customer, to our users, is actually driven by an algorithm. And to enable that kind of data-driven organization, we need the data to flow. And I think one of the speakers spoke about it. We need data to flow from all different parts of the organization. And that's really happened because we are cloud first and we've been cloud enabled. The last thing I want to say is, we've all faced a tough situation during COVID. And we had lots of back office operations which were in our office. Because we were cloud first and because we were ready, we could transfer all of it within a matter of a couple of days. So our customers never faced a problem with any back office operations. So it's really been about a cloud-first strategy, cloud-enabled strategy for us.
Sure, great. Thanks, sir. Thanks a ton for that. I think we have another of our panelists who's joined us. May I invite on stage Mr. Biru Kumar, who's the Associate Director of Technology at Better Half. Welcome, Biru. Please greet him with a round of applause, please. I think we can, see. Welcome, Biru. Thank you so much. And before anything else, I will come back to you, circle back to you. Can we move the discussion to Vaibhav here? Vaibhav, what's your take in terms of what is a cloud first? What does cloud first imply to you in terms of your infra and the cloud landscape? So if you could throw some light on your role and typically on your journey here, the cloud journey.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me here. So I'm the co-founder and CTO at Shadowfax. While some of you may know, Shadowfax is a last mile logistics setup.
Correct.
We work with almost all your consumer facing brands, be it Swiggy, Zomato, BigBasket, Zepto, Purple, Flipkart, Myntra, and so on. And we enable their logistics piece, the last mile logistics specifically, and the end-to-end logistics for the e-commerce players. We process close to 15.5 lakh orders on a daily basis, and have presence around 700 cities. From a cloud-first perspective, when we started roughly around 7.5 years back. To be honest, in a way, I would say that we were fortunate enough, or we were, for the lack of better options, we only had cloud options at our disposal if we have to start building a company. In the initial stages, as a startup, when you are starting up, there are a lot of experiments that you need to do. You are unsure whether the idea that you are thinking of will start or not. In that case, your cost of experimentation has to be less. When you're working on a cloud setup, that is something that you get as an offering. To be honest, we did not have that much capital when we were bootstrapping to invest into the on-premise hardware and scale them up accordingly. And in that sense, pay-as-you-go model of the cloud-first setup helps us. At a steady state, if you ask me, and on a personal level, I would still, anybody who is starting up, I rarely feel that there is any use case why they should not be cloud native or cloud first. As a company which is mature enough, hasn't been cloud first, I think it's a good thought process, I think, which the other speakers also mentioned. It's important to assess how you want to migrate, or do you even need to migrate. Personal level, if you ask me, apart from any compliance related issue, I don't see any particular reason why companies should not migrate. Obviously, there is an associated cost, there is associated bandwidth, associated expertise that is needed. So yeah, that's the setup for us from a cloud first perspective. We'll continue to be cloud governed. Uh, one thing which maybe I would slightly differ from the earlier panel member is, I mean, try as much as possible, do not be contingent or do not be biased towards a particular cloud platform.
Sure. So straddling between multiple platforms, is that?
Maybe that might be a steady state opportunity as systems mature. Different cloud providers at the current state, they have a different set of maturity in different use cases. So, I mean, for an organization, one needs to be very clear what are the critical ones that they wish to invest further.
Sure, great. Thanks so much, Vaibhav. That was very insightful. Thanks. So, quickly moving to Subhash here, right? Subhash, so you're in an industry that really e-commerce. I mean the dukan, like they say, makan then dukan, right? So I think the role of AI and ML, while it's paramount across all the industries, I mean, I don't see it being of any less criticality anywhere. How really has this kind of played out as far as Dukaan is concerned? So can you throw some light and tell us, bring back a little bit of the spotlight with how we're integrating it to the cloud discussion, please?
So I will start on the cloud part first.
Sure.
When I started my journey, right, as an engineer, probably 13, 14 years back, my first job was to monitor servers for everything that is happening in the server, basically monitoring data centers.
Yeah.
When I started my journey, right, my journey was, I started as a support engineer for data centers.
Sure.
We have customers who are running, I think 1.5 million servers. That's 15 lakh servers. Our job was to monitor if a pankha kam hona start ho gaya, even if a server's fan starts to blow a little slower, we are supposed to know that, notify and find out the reason why that happens. Because if that starts, something will go wrong. Our job was to find out what happened. So I know the kind of pain, I know the kind of things that people had to do that just to keep one server up and running. And talk about that kind of servers. Today, as we scale, we do a lot of technology and everything. Now today, here we are. Today, we no longer talk about cloud native. And even from this discussion that we have, I think nobody's talking about cloud native versus not cloud native. Cloud native is the default anyway. Now people talk about container native. When you say cloud native, that is container native. Cloud native today, the term has changed a lot since last
Correct.
couple of years. And cloud native is basically container native. Are you container native? Are you modular? Are you using infrastructure as a code? That is what we do. When we started, we had a choice of whether to be container native or not. So we chose to go with that part. So now we have completely fully on, the containers, infrastructure as a code, all the kind of deployments, rollout, all the kind of things that we do. And that kind of made us that, okay, now since we have cloud native, we have the choice to not just be married to one platform like AWS or GCP. I can go anywhere. Java apply karne hai and cheeze chal jati hai. So now we are multiple cloud platforms. We use AWS, we use GCP, we use Vultr, we use DigitalOcean. Anywhere I can get a hand on and kind of the use case fits based on price, based on whatever. I don't have to get married to one provider, and that's what we have been doing. We use pretty much everything that we can. In some of the examples, like Kubernetes, for example, where you have to spin up a pod faster. Google have, I think, one of the fastest services. A couple of days back, I was on call with Google product managers, and I was talking about Google, not AWS. Yeah, AWS guys are there.
So I think he was trying to contain your container express.
Yeah. So I was saying I was on call with Google product managers from the GCP Autopilot team, and now we are trying to get a container up and running in 3 to 4 seconds. Compared to getting a server up and running, let's say 3-4 years back, where you have to spin up a new virtual machine, install stuff, get it running, that was at least 10 to 15 minutes. That is a large shift into how fast you can get an application up and running, or how fast you can get your application to scale. That is what we talked about today. That is basically, kind of getting into modularity. That is on the GCP part. There are a couple of things that AWS does better. I'll probably best, and I will not talk about that. But point being, if you're cloud native, you don't have to, depend on or just use something on the one platform. And that's what we talk about. We talk about cloud native. We talk about multi-cloud. We talk about multi-CDN. Those are the kind of things that we have implemented across the infrastructure that we have. Now, when we come to AI/ML, that was the second question, right? Dukaan, as you know, we started as a platform for small business owners, mostly dukandars, the name says, to come and create their store as fast as you can. Our tagline was create your online store in 30 seconds. When we started to do that, what we saw was cataloging was one of the biggest challenges. In 30 seconds, no matter what you can't add your catalog. Kitne photo loge 30 seconds, there is a limit. So what we did was that, okay, We figure out a lot of solutions how we can get the catalog, up and running very quickly. Ultimately, what we settled was that, okay, you do one thing, you take a photo of your rack. Let's say आप शॉप में बैठे हो, आपने स्टोर बना लिया. Now you want to add your products. You take a photo of your rack. I will tell you exactly which products you have based on looking at the photos. And I will not just tell you how many which products we have. I will also tell you how many products we have. Let's say अगर आपके पास अपना एक शैम्पू पड़ा हुआ है, let's say किसी ब्रांड का, या एक पाउडर रखा हुआ है, या एक पार्ले-जी बिस्किट रखा हुआ है. I know ये पार्ले-जी बिस्किट है. By looking at millions of data points that we have already collected. At one point we have 3.5 million B2B customers who have their store and who have added tens of thousands of products. And all those products have images, and even Google have images, Facebook have images, Bing have images. By looking at collecting all those data, we were able to just look at the image and tell you exactly कि ये वाला जो आपका जो rack है, इसके अंदर exactly क्या है पड़ा हुआ आपके पास और कितना item पड़ा हुआ है. So you take one photo and your entire inventory is up and running on Dukaan in literally 30 seconds. And that would not have been possible without AI or ML for that matter. If we didn't have that technology or the kind of know-how to do it, someone have to एक प्रोडक्ट ऐड करना, पार्ले-जी इसका प्राइस इतना है, तो दूसरा एक शैम्पू है इसका प्राइस इतना है. एंड यू थिंक अबाउट ए ग्रोसरी स्टोर, हाउ मेनी प्रोडक्ट्स देते हैं, देयर थाउजेंड्स ऑफ प्रोडक्ट्स. वो उसको पूरा प्रोडक्ट ऐड करने में मौत आ जाएगी इसको, मतलब कैसे करेगा. सो दैट्स व्हाई वी थॉट ये काफ़ी यूज हो रहा है. इवन नाउ वी हैव मूव्ड ऑन फ्रॉम दैट टू अ लॉट. नाउ वी डू लाइक वी आर इन ई-कॉमर्स. Returns, COD returns is one of the biggest pain point for pretty much every customers. We have data point from tens of thousands of orders every day across all the pin codes, across all the logistics players. We use Artifacts, we use delivery, we use pretty much everyone. And we can tell you from exactly that, okay, even before the order is placed, we are able to tell you that, okay, this order is going to be RT or not, based on the prediction models that we have created. And with that, seller can take a decision in real time, whether you want to let the user place the order through COD, you want to do a partial COD, you want to charge a partial payment, or you don't even want to show the COD option at all. And all those things is powered by AI and ML these days that nobody else is doing. So that's how,
Sure.
Hope that
I mean,
helps.
great. I mean, I think we got some interesting use cases of AI and ML as far as Dukaan is concerned. So great. I think that kind of, let me bring Ipshita into the conversation here. Welcome, Ipshita. So I think it's the right time to ask you a question pointed towards, AI and ML. So how do you really see this as far as your customer conversations go? And where is persistent? We saw some bit of it during Siddharth's session as well. So what's your observation been basis what the panelists have spoken, and how does AI and ML really fit into some of the things they have addressed? Some use cases at your end as well, please. All yours.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Can everyone hear me okay? All right, great. So I believe a lot of the digital natives in the country, in fact, the entire continent, have moved on to a model wherein they can just plug in and deploy best of breed AI or ML models as required. Now, AI is like the end state. We are not quite there yet, but deep learning models, a variety of auto ML models that Siddharth also alluded to, those are readily available, various versions available across multiple clouds. So that's the base state. Now, when we talk about the next level of cloud, what we have been clearly hearing is that companies don't want to be locked in with one single cloud provider. They want the best of breed solutions from multiple cloud providers and want to be in a hybrid state model. So through various conversations with clients, what we have learned is that the next level that they're looking for, especially from a machine learning standpoint, is how do we manage model governance and ensure that there are no black box models. Let's say you have a data science team of 10 right now. It's very easy to understand and supervise how they are building models, how they're deploying it. But one, can we automate this process of deployment and training? And two, can we really have explainability behind it? So in case something breaks or something goes wrong, we're able to explain to our management what really went wrong. To that end, GCP has a few capabilities available specifically around detecting data drift in specific data sets, as well as understanding model skew, why a certain model changes its behavior over time. It can give it to you in terms of attributes such as feature attributions and other items, but there are specific workflows embedded there as well. The second thing we've been hearing is automated deployment and training models. So how do we increase time to market? So I'll take one particular example of a client that we worked with, RateGain, which is a travel and logistics data intelligence provider. They provide a variety of products related to demand intelligence, revenue forecasting, hotel utilization, etc. And their cycle was such that they launch products once every 6 months after a specific process that they followed for training models, iterating, and refining them. by optimizing their clusters on GKE, by moving to the cloud. That was the first basic foundation stage that they already had set up along with us. And the next stage was to understand how do we deploy AutoML, BQML models, and then move on to an MLOps deployment. Through that engagement, we were able to bring the time to market down to about 3 months. Now, that's just one example. We have done this across the board with multiple clients as well. And as we move on to a multi-cloud environment, what becomes a priority is to understand, is there a way we can have central data governance and observability while maintaining a version of different data sets on various clouds? So maybe you have a warehouse on Redshift, not BigQuery, but you want to use BigQuery Analytics, then you create maybe a set of 200 features on top, which you port to BigQuery. And then using those same features, you design an ML model that runs on Vertex AI or any other model that you have coded using Jupyter Notebooks. So portability becomes key. Yeah.
Sure, great. Thank you so much. I think that was a very specific answer there. I'll come back to you, Ipshita. I think we'll quickly move to Biru here. Biru, welcome to the panel. And you are part of Better Half. So, okay, so matrimonial website, picking up volumes, huge traffic, which gains currency. So I think the first thing that really occupies everyone, I think, is to kind of not have downtime, at the same time be robust and secure. So security is a big piece here. So can you kind of walk us through your questions that have kind of dogged you in the course of your cloud journey, and security with a special focus here? All yours.
Right, okay. So for me, security has always been paramount thing.
Correct.
So whenever and I think since if I talk about my journey first, so I started it's around 11 years of in this industry. I started working in MNC with on-premises and all the things, and later we moved to in the cloud provider, different cloud providers. So for us, as I mentioned, the security is very important, and in all the cloud provider provides a different level of security, right? The subnet and all those things, the encryption which we are talking about. So through that, we do have security because for us, the kind of user we have, it's all about the details of the user which gets onboarded to us. We provide the AI, enable for them, and that help us to as onboarding them very fast in compared to other matrimonial website. And because of that, but over the course of the time, we get the user data as per the user, behavior, that how the thing, and that help us to provide them the curated profile them. Every day, if I talk about us, that we generate more than 3 million recommendation for the user, which is a very big number if I talk about other company which is right now here. And so the scalability and the security, as I mentioned, right, the data is a very important for us. So we use the cloud provider tools, whatever the security they provide with the subnet, with encryption and all the thing, right, public and private. We use those data, we keep that data very much secure, make sure that data is not only secure, but there's a very high availability that if there is any disaster thing happen, we can recover that data. Not something what the keynote speaker was talking about, but we do have something that within an hour we can definitely recover the data if something happens. So far nothing has happened, and I'm sure nothing will happen also again, because as I mentioned that for us this is something is a very important thing for me especially. I have worked a lot in security. I have seen other companies how do they work. So we make sure that this is something which is not get compromised. And this is something, again, I don't want to go into further detail because again very important thing for us. But I just want to make sure that the data, whatever the data people use with us, is a very much secure. It will never get compromised. So right now again start using GCP. That is the thing. And again, when the GCP was happening, the first question I was asking, how secure your platform, like the partner, I asked that, how secure you will make sure there is no data compromise happens. So that was one of the biggest reluctance we have for last 2 months. When we got the security and all assurance, then we start right now moving to GCP. So some of our system we are moving to GCP, as Ipshita was talking about. Also one of the reason is BigQuery and all the thing, because different cloud provider provide different kind of functionality which we want to leverage to our system. So yeah, that is something.
Sure. So yeah, great. I mean, it's good to know that you're sort of becoming a sort of a user of some parts of GCP, and of course, I admire your confidence as far as the security goes. Because
That is definitely because I have a lot of experience. I have worked a lot in
there's
this
ransomware as a service floating around, right? And many other things. Anyways, jokes apart, thank you so much, Biru. So very quickly, let's do a roundup of understanding a few things. So right now, most organizations are either in hybrid workplace mode. So that necessitated a lot of change over the last couple of years. So just want to kind of understand very quickly from this panel. I'll start with Vaibhav here. So given the hybrid workplace context, where and what are the 3 top priorities that you have kind of recalibrated and keeping cloud as a focal point? How did your cloud strategy change accordingly? Or how is it going to change accordingly?
So number one thing is on the security side of things. When you are remote, you need to ensure that right people have the right access and they are making the right set of changes. Number two, in terms of the cloud usage perspective, when hybrid workspaces are there, I think the very manner in which we create or we set up in a scenario when everyone is in the office, when there is an all hands scenario, whereas people are spread across, monitoring or collaborating in case of a downtime or in case of an incident is an important setup. So to get that right collaboration tools or have those right monitoring setups was an important thing. I'm struggling, to be honest, to figure out point number 3. So I'll maybe leave it to the next.
It can even be 2. You don't have to have a magic number. I just put 3. If you have 2, it's 2. No problem. Thanks, Vaibhav. Kritika, may I move the question to you, please?
So I would agree with what Vaibhav said, and just a little different perspective on the security. Right? You want to make sure that the people who are working remotely have enough data to take intelligent decisions. But at the same time, you want to make sure they don't have the data that will cause some kind of discomfort for the company. So you need to make sure that you don't hand the keys of a Tesla to a 10-year-old, right? So I think we spend a lot of time thinking about data governance, who needs access to what, because we are very data driven. Like every technical engineer will look at some analytics to kind of take a decision on what he needs to do next. But at the same time, we need to make sure who has what data. The second thing I would also agree is collaboration. I mean, we use Google Workspace very, very actively. We also try to create collaborative workspaces by using tools like Slack, for instance. They are partially successful, all these efforts, but we are always looking to learn how to create more collaboration. And the last thing is always being ready to go completely remote. That's been a big thing for us. Like I mentioned, when COVID hit, we could literally, in a matter of days, we could go remote with back office operations, things like KYC and bank mandate, which is typically document based. So I think those are the 3 things for a hybrid workspace for us.
Sure, thanks much. I think I'll move to Pranav here. Yes, so in the context of a hybrid workplace, how does it work for you? So any recalibration of the cloud strategy, or yes, no, a little bit? So what's the ongoing plan?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we have had talks with GCP folks, right? And of course, I think everybody does that. We extensively use Google workplaces. Like it was mentioned by my fellow panelists that Slack, for example, right? So it's a mix of everything, right? And maybe it's just my lack of experience in the industry, but for me, everything is a learning, right? If something just doesn't work out on a platform, you have to move, right? You just can't be rigid on fixated on a certain platform, right? So yeah, I mean, like I said, for example, we tried content delivery, like I said, we provide recorded courses also. So we have to do it by HLS, and we tried to do it ourselves. There were some complications in that. So again, like like I said, there are tools for it which are readily available and which give you a more optimized and a better output than some others would do. So, like considering cost and everything, flexibility and your intellectual resources, I feel it's important to move to a more hybrid and a more keeping a more open approach to things.
Sure, great. I think that was quite insightful. So, Shivash, moving this question to you as well.
Security for me is not even a choice. I am a B2B platform, right? I run a platform where people, like large D2C brands, for example, take Ginny Johnny or Jockey, for example, these kind of companies, large enterprises or even small brands, they run the entire business on Dukaan. The entire store, the orders, inventory, everything that they have is on Dukaan. All the customers' data, all the orders data, the customer's address, everything is on Dukaan. Security is not even a choice. And one small mishap, we are a very small company. If let's say a 15 years company have a data mismatch, Uber, for example, have a data mismatch, and it's no big deal. But if mera ek single sa mishap hoga, nobody's going to trust me for next 5 years. So for me, security is very important. And when I say that, I mean literally, I don't even have a choice. If one small mistake and everyone in the company knows that, we can't take that lightly. We are, I think, one of the first company, very few companies who is doing ISO 27001, SOC 2 Type 2, all these kind of international certifications, sitting in India, that too 1 year after inception. Nobody talks about that. People just data center certification leke chipka dete hain ki my data center is certified, so I'm also certified. No, I'm not doing that. I'm doing the certification myself as well. I'm trying to ensure that all the controls that is needed to achieve that kind of certification, because they are pretty much gold standards in the international community, is implemented into my company as well. And whatever needs to be done, we will get that done. So this is the kind of things that we do for security. I don't have a choice. And that shows up at everywhere. If someone doesn't need to have access to something, they don't have access to it. If it comes to PII, nobody have access to PII at any level, no matter who is. Nobody in the company have access to any PII for any customer or their customer, because everything that they can do can be done through on a mask data. They don't need to know who is the actual customer. They can work with the mask number. Let's say if my number is 8097 blah blah blah. They don't need to know my number. They just need to know this is the number of a customer, and they can work with it. That number is encrypted, masked. They don't have to know it. They know that okay, there are 10 stores. All the stores are these are the stores. But no, they don't need to know who is behind that store. Why they need to need it? Nobody needs to know it. And that's what we have done. And so far, we have been fortunate enough to not have any kind of issues. Hopefully, this is how it should stay.
Sure, great. That was very quick. Thank you so much. Vishal, I move the question to you. So a very similar question. So hybrid workplace, how did your cloud strategy recalibrate? Or how will it recalibrate?
Yeah, so we are a regulated institute, right? So we have a tech company and then a subsidiary is an NBFC, right? So the bar kind of becomes much higher, right? Like if you're a regulated institution and something happens, we have the KYC, we have the banking data of the customers. So obviously these things matter a lot, right? So within the first 1 year, we got all the required certifications like ISO 27001, and then we have worked with a couple of ethical hacker kind of companies to make sure that our systems are pretty solid. And when the COVID hit, part of the company was initially in office, but then pretty much we operated almost 1 year entirely from home, and we grew in the time quite a lot, and now we are like hybrid. So some of the teams, like we are trying to get our tech team back, but they're still pretty adamantly working from home. Yeah, but rest of our team operations are in office, so it's a hybrid approach. So the tech team, our CTO has like constantly we work with some top-notch security consultants to keep on ensuring that the customer data that we have, there is a proper access to data, there is a layered access. Not everybody, the operation team should not be able to access the data of other customers. So obviously it's very, very paramount for us. And increasingly, as we become larger and larger, we will be adding more and more efforts around this area.
Sure, great. Thanks much. Biru, I quickly move the question to you.
Yeah, I think when the COVID hit that time, everyone moved like remotely. But very quick, we got to know that this is not something is a very scalable or sustainable in a way, like working that. I think even last year itself in August or something, we started calling people in the office and we started working from office itself. Then we realized also that this is again not working post-COVID. that time. I think the second wave just completed. So because everyone now get accustomed with working from home something, so we moved to hybrid model at that time. That okay, couple of days you come to office, couple of days you work from home, but you have to come to office, and I think that is the model we are following right now, and it is working very well for us. So something like Monday, Tuesday you come to office, plan all the thing, and Wednesday, Thursday, if you have the concentrated, you want to work as an engineer, because engineer needs some kind of focus also. So you can work from home, and then Friday you can come, we can discuss what we achieved, we can celebrate, and then that's all. I think in all this journey, again, cloud becomes very important. Something like as every panel mentioned, the security is very important part when we are working in the hybrid model, right? Because everyone can access the data from other places. So that is, again, we mentioned the cloud itself help us to mitigate that risk and make sure that everything is intact. That is the thing. And there are different channels we are using through Slack and all the thing to communicate and all the thing. But I think from cloud perspective, we find that if I leave about security or something, which is, again, we have worked on that. Other things are like sorted out. There is nothing as such from our end.
Sure. Yes, Vaibhav. Oh.
Just trying to use this platform as a suggestion to Google Workspace. Please get some solution for Slack. We honestly don't want to migrate between Google Workspace and Slack. If an integrated solution can come in, that will be super helpful.
Okay, so I think they're listening to you. Yeah, great. Thank you for that input. Ipshita, I rest with you at this point. So you heard the entire discussion here, and people are talking about data and security, AI, ML, and you did throw some light about the work that the possibilities that customers can sort of consider. So how has hybrid workplace sort of changed your customer conversations? Where did you have to recalibrate your conversations, and what were those 2 or 3 things you told customers?
So just to clarify, recalibrate customer conversations in the sense, how do we engage and what sort of products and services?
And what were those? Yes. What were those changes you had to make while talking about a hybrid workplace approach? So what were those 2 or 3 things you told customers differently?
Sure, yeah. So I think with COVID coming into the picture, everyone had to change the game and everyone's business models changed. What became paramount was is data governance in place. It was no more a very esoteric discussion. It was table stakes now. And to that end, for smaller scale clients, it's a much easier deployment rather than with larger scale clients who are cloud native, who have already built this into their business model, and then building a wrapper around it becomes more challenging. So then the conversation went in the direction of creating data marts to be utilized by specific operations or business teams, rather than having a single layer database being viewed by everyone at the same time. A different aspect of it also came into play, a lot of conversations around building automated dashboards to reflect certain key business metrics on a real-time basis. Again, table stakes at this point, and we had to quickly prioritize and understand how do we get that done and build the deep learning models in the background to support that. Third was keeping track of how things were being migrated, whether it's from AWS to GCP or operating in a hybrid cloud pattern. Anthos became key. So a lot of our team members are trained in Anthos to operate in a hybrid / on-prem deployment model. And then also using Terraform, IAC, script management to deploy quickly, managing very stringent timelines for migration as well. A lot of those elements came into play.
Sure, so faster turnarounds were really the order of the day.
Yes, faster turnaround, scaling up teams as required. So the cloud story kind of played into our operation story as well. So I think Devashish can attest to this. If we needed 10 people today, tomorrow we needed 20 people, and then the scale grows. Yeah.
Sure, great. Thanks much for those inputs. So at this point of time, quickly just asking, throwing it open to the audiences, any questions that you have for the panel here? Anything that you want to know? Okay, so it's a shy crowd here. Okay, great. So let's kind of quickly, in the interest of time here, let's kind of do a quick wrap up here. Thank you so much for joining on the panel. I think each of you gave in a quick sort of run through of your cloud journey and where you stand and how the hybrid workplace model has really changed the discussion for you. And I think we kind of quickly, each of us given a structured set of inputs. Vaibhav, I liked your suggestion. session at the end of it. I think Google, Cloud as well as persistent systems are making note of it. For more discussions, more specific, granular discussions here, I mean, let's, kind of take the discussion to after the session here. So thanks much, Biru, Subhash, Pranav, Vaibhav, Kritika, Vishal, and Ipshita. Thanks so much for joining us here. Thanks a ton. And I think they deserve a round of applause. They've given some great insights. Please make use of their insights to have further conversations further on. So may I request, we would like to sort of thank our panelists with a token of appreciation. May I call for the tokens, please? Thank you all so much. Thank you. And it's time now to quickly look at a QR code in each of your clusters. So it's feedback time, and it's not just feedback time. You get to answer a few questions here. We synthesize the feedback, you put in all your details, and with your email ID and so on and so forth. So it's earn your reward feedback mechanism, and you get to have vouchers coming into your email IDs in, I think, less than a couple of hours. So please look at the QR code attached to each of your clusters. Make use of it. There's a feedback that, set of questions you need to answer. Leave your details, please, without fail. And your email ID will be critical. And you'll get vouchers coming to your email ID, I presume, in less than 2 hours. Have we been able to... Any hassles with that? I'm presuming there are no challenges with the QR code. Anything, please flag it to us. We'd be happy to help you. All right. So I presume that there were no challenges, and the feedback process is done. So great. That is a wrap-up of today's session on the Transformation Cloud series, Accelerate Your Cloud Transformation Journey. So a huge thank you on behalf of Google Cloud, Persistent Systems, and ETCIO. Thank you so much, Debashish, Siddharth, Ipshita, for your support and granular insights. I think a lot of learning for all of us, including yours truly here. I'll be also going and looking up on a lot of things that I heard today. Thank you so much, and thanks a ton to all our panelists for facilitating their insights and giving us a quick run through of where they are. I think very young companies here who joined us, so I think their journey is a little different from the older companies, so I got to learn a lot too. Thanks much. So this is Shantiri Malya here, signing off. Thanks much, and do not miss out on the feedback part. You have vouchers waiting for you. Thanks so much. Thank you. A round of applause, please.